goal right now is to simply delete this jumping enemy from the hierarchy. So we can do that right now. We just right click and choose delete. And we want the game to add the jumping enemy itself, okay, by itself. So what we have to do here is we're going to open the game controller script. And remember, we have two sections, gameplay and UI. Let's add a new one. So we're going to add a header like this, a bracket header, then between parentheses we're going to add the string game, colon, and we can name this jumpers, for example, or whatever name you want to give. And what we want to make here is a public game object, and this is going to be the jumping enemy prefab. Okay. So this is a game object. It's a bit different than how floats and ints work. Okay, it's going to work more or less like how we reference the player in the info text. If you save this and go to Unity, you're going to wait for the code to compile, and once you look, you now have the jumpers section, and we have that jumping enemy prefab. So we can drag the prefab in here. We need to pass a reference. So I'm going to drag the jumping enemy from here, and I'm going to drop it here. Okay, now we have a reference to the jumping enemy. And now that we have this, we need to find a way to instantiate that, so we can use the start method for this. What we're going to do is we're going to type game object jumping enemy object equals to, and now we're going to call a very simple method called instantiate. And between parentheses we pass the original game object, which is the reference that we want to use. In our case, it's going to be the jumping enemy prefab. Okay, this is enough for adding the jumping enemy into the scene. So now we can save this, we can wait for the code to be finished, and now we're going to press play. And as the game runs, you're going to see that the enemy appeared in here just like it should appear. Okay, and a few details. You're going to notice that the name of the jumping enemy is jumping enemy clone, but that's not a problem. Okay, it's just to say that it has been instantiated. And another detail is that jumping enemy has been instantiated outside of the game controller in the hierarchy. While this works, okay, you can do the entire game with this working like that. It's not very good to make it stay here. Okay, so since it belongs to the game, we should add it to the game controller in the hierarchy. It should dynamically appear like this. Okay, so one way to do this is you can simply come here and type jumping enemy object dot transform dot set parent, and between parentheses we're going to pass transform, and this transform here is going to reference the game controller. Okay, so this means that the jumping enemy is going to have the game controller as its parent, so it's going to be under the game controller in the hierarchy. We can save this, go to Unity, and we can test this one more time. Now we're going to press play, and now we can see that the jumping enemy has appeared here, and that was a very close call. Okay, now this time I lost. Okay, so now that we have the jumping enemy here, we should improve the code a little bit, so we're going to be able to switch between different games. We're going to make a new game really soon that's going to require a new enemy, and there must be a good way for us to switch if we want to instantiate the jumping enemy, for example, or if we want to instantiate the rolling enemy. So let's work on this.